Hey everybody, Mark from SocialShowAndTell.com here to give you a brief tour of Sony Vegas Movie Studio HD. Now this is my favorite budget video editing program by far, and the reason for that is it's based on Sony Vegas Pro, which is Sony's really professional line of audio and video production software. I've been using it for years. It's really flexible, it's really powerful, and it's really easy to use. And you get most all the bells and whistles of it in Sony's consumer version Movie Studio HD line. But they make it really easy to use for novice users, but you can really open it up as you get more accustomed to using the software and do really complex stuff. And that's why I really love it, because, you know, if I'm at a computer that I don't have my Vegas Pro installed on, I can install Movie Studio HD and do pretty much almost all the same stuff that I can do in the professional version. And they have 4 different flavors of it now, starting at their basic Movie Studio HD, which is just mainly for video editing. They also have a Platinum 11 version, which also includes Blu-ray disc burning and 5.1 surround sound audio mixing and different things like that. They have the Production Suite, which includes their SoundForge audio studio for audio recording and a couple other pieces of advanced software. And then their Visual Effects Suite for doing really advanced visual effects. And they're all super affordable. And the one that I always recommend to everybody is the Movie Studio HD Platinum version, because it's a nice kind of middle of the road to do most everything for the novice, including burning DVDs and Blu-ray discs. So let's fire up the software, and I'm going to give you a brief tour and set up a basic project just to kind of give you the key tools to get in and start a project and get it up on YouTube. First, launch the software. You come to the welcome screen. If you've done any projects in the past, you can open them really quickly from the recent projects. You can create a new one, or you can learn about specific topics that you might want to know about through their Show Me How tutorials, which is basically text walkthroughs of specific topics with on-screen prompts to really guide you through any specific topic that you're wanting to learn how to do. Launch up the Show Me How tutorials. It's also available up here in the toolbar at the top, and you can learn quite a bit about the software right here. But we're going to quit that and just basically take a look at the screen that you'll see when you first open Movie Studio. It's basically divided into 4 areas. You have your timeline down here at the bottom with your audio and video tracks. The video tracks have the little film strip icon here, and the little squiggly waveform icon are your audio tracks. We'll get back down to that here in a second. You have level meters to monitor the level of your sound. You have your video preview pane, and then you have your docking area right here with a few different tabs we'll get into here in a second. The nice thing about this is you can kind of drag the edges and resize things as you want to lay out the screen however you want it. These little dotted edges here are basically for you to grab and pull things around and redock things, so you can kind of create separate docking areas just by kind of picking stuff up and moving it around. But here I'm going to just kind of throw stuff back to the way it originally was. What's nice about this too is if you have multiple monitors, you can pick up some of this stuff here, like the preview panes and the docking areas, and you can move them off to the second monitor, leaving your whole first monitor here for your timeline. That's what a lot of professional video editors do, just to kind of give themselves a little bit more real estate if they're doing really complex projects. And then you can also, under View and Window Layouts, you can save different layouts here. So if you have more than one person using the software, you can each save your own layout, so you can come into the software and have it set up just the way that you like it. Now if we go back here into the docking area, we'll take a quick look at these different tabs that they offer you here. Project Media is basically your big list of all the different pieces of media that you have in your project. So as you go along and you throw more stuff into it, it'll all be listed here under Project Media, so you can have quick and easy access to anything that you've already imported. Explorer is basically your built-in Windows Explorer, so you can go and find files anywhere on your computer. You have libraries full of different transitions with previews, so you can kind of see what they look like before you use them. Same thing for visual effects, or video effects, I should say. We'll get into those a little bit more as we go along too, but you have a ton of different things that you can do. Media generators, here you have some other different things like checkerboards and solid colors and test patterns and titles and credit rolls and different things like that, and we'll get into that in a future video. And the trimmer, which we'll also get into just a little bit here as we start working on a project. So let's find a piece of video and get started. So I have here on my E drive a folder with Vegas demo files that we will use here in our basic setup project. Now, basically, it's a click and drag interface, so I could just click and drag something directly onto the timeline. And here you see the video element on video track and the audio element down here on an audio track. You can kind of click and drag these into whichever track that you want. You get up to 10 tracks. With Vegas Pro, you get unlimited tracks, and it used to be with Movie Studio HD that you would get only 3. Now they've expanded it to 10, which is really helpful because 3 was a bit too limiting. So you can put these on any tracks that you want. You can basically click and drag to move them around a little bit. But let's say that you had a really long video file. This one's only 45 seconds, but say you had one that was several minutes or a half hour. You didn't want to drag the whole thing down onto your timeline to start out with. So basically, we can right-click on something and choose Open in Trimmer. And we're back to the Trimmer tab. And then basically this is a way that you can view the contents of a file and select a piece of it to drop down into your timeline. So basically you can kind of click and drag a selection here on the audio track, and you get preview of where your cursor is as you scrub along, either at the end of the file, end of your selection, or the beginning of your selection. And you can also kind of click and drag this to resize to make video bigger or the audio bigger. Again, they make a really flexible layout. So let's say I just want this little piece of this video. So now when we have our selection, we just basically click our selected part and we drag it down to our timeline. Now, let's say we wanted to, as we're going along, expand this out a little bit. Maybe we trimmed it too short. If you click in the middle of either of your video or audio elements down here on the timeline, you get this little squared trimming icon. If you click and drag, you can basically pull the edges in and out and selectively retrim your elements right here on the timeline. Now, we can, again, move this anywhere that we want it. We can put it on different tracks. Let's say we wanted to do a really smooth fade in on the video. Now, if we put our cursor over either of the top edges of this element, click and drag, we can pull a fade in or a fade out on our video elements. And as we pull it further in and out, you see on screen how long the fade occurs. So right now we have it about a 5-second fade in. We can trim it down to about 2 seconds or about 1.5 seconds. And if we click here to the beginning of our project and hit play, we see how that occurs. Likewise, we'll preview the fade out, and we can see how it goes in our preview. Now if I trim this out a little bit, I make longer fade out, now you see what doing a longer fade out looks like. You can also do that to your audio, to fade your audio in and out. So now if we play this back, you heard the audio fade in. So basically, that's how you do all your different fades. Now let's say we wanted to put another piece in and do a cut. So we're going to take another piece here, open it in the trimmer, select a little piece, let's select this, and we bring it down onto our timeline. Now if we want to cut from this clip to this clip, basically all we have to do is drag it into the other one, and where it butts in there and the little highlighted parts between the two of them, that means that it's joined in a cut. And there's our basic cut from one clip to another. Basically, if I was to do another piece here, you know when they're joined for a basic cut when you get that little highlight over the edge. They kind of snap together. But I'm going to delete this right now. I'm going to expand this a little bit so I have a little bit bigger file, or a little bit bigger element here on the timeline, so I can show you how to easily dissolve from one piece to another. And basically that's as simple as clicking and dragging it into another. And instead of fading, now you're dissolving from one to the other, both the video and the audio. So now if we play this back, you have the basic dissolve between your two elements. But let's say that you don't want it to just simply dissolve one into the other. You want to do some kind of cool transition. So that goes back to the Transitions tab up here in our docking area. Now we can look through and find exactly the transition that we want between these two elements. So let's say we wanted to do a basic wipe. So we'll choose a clock wipe that does a radial wipe between the two elements, and we'll just choose this one. And it's basically as easy as clicking and dragging and dropping it right over the transition between these two elements. Now when you do that, it pops up this little window. You can really customize what the transition looks like, but I'm just going to exit out, just leave it as is, and we'll preview this. And there you go. And if you wanted to adjust the timing of it, you can either drag it further into your other clip or farther away to shorten it, or you can take the edge of it and trim it if you wanted to kind of trim the beginning of the clip as you're selecting the length of your transition. So if we shorten this up, here I'll kind of zoom in a little bit here. You can zoom in both horizontally and vertically with the little pluses and minuses here on the scroll bars. But if I shorten this, it's only about a half a second transition for a really fast one. And basically, that's about as easy as it gets. If we wanted to choose a different transition, say we didn't want to do the wipe, we wanted to do a push, basically click and drag and drop a new one over the top of it, and there you have your push transition. So it's really easy to do the real basic transitions and editing and stuff like that. You can also bring the transitions to the fade edges. Instead of dissolve between two clips, you can make like a hard flash be your fade out by clicking and dragging it onto your fade out, and then having that be your ending transition instead of just a simple fade. You can do, let's see, the page peel, which is usually a transition between two elements, but if we do it on the trailing edge of a clip, it just peels off to black. Now, when you're looking at your video tracks, basically think about it as layers, and you're looking at them from the top down. So if I put this video up above it and play it back, this video is higher than this video, so this is going to take prominence over this. So essentially you're creating a cut by layering this video over this video. But then because you're doing that, you're transitioning between the two audio down on this track. Or you could put this audio piece down below it, and instead of fading between the two, you're basically playing them both concurrently that way. So basically anything that you have above something else will show over top of it. Now, say we wanted to do a title, and a title is basically something that's overlaid over your video. We do that by putting that on top, on an upper track, and we insert a text by clicking on Insert and Text Media. Oops, see, I dragged that and it tried to dock, so we'll take that and keep that out front, and we'll just call this text. You can choose a font, you can choose a size, bold, italics, so on and so forth. You can choose a lot of different stylistic things here, but basically we're just going to keep the basic text. So if I close out of this, basically it's a video element right here, but it's transparent behind the text, so it shows over top. If you had this on the track below this video, the video takes up the whole frame, so you're obscuring this. So make sure that you put text and other transparent things on an upper track to have them overlay over your video. And we can treat this text same way we do any other video. We can do fades in and out. We can do transitions. I'm going to try a flash. It's basically just another video element. The only difference is it's generated by the program instead of being a video element. Likewise, we can also add graphics to this. So I'm going to right-click anywhere down here in the timeline and choose Insert Video Track. So we have a blank video track here. We can also click and drag these anywhere in order that you want. So you can also reorder your tracks, but then be mindful that of how the elements are ordered top to bottom and what that does to your layout. But right now, let's say we wanted to put a graphic over top of the video. Say you wanted to do your logo or something like that. Oops. If we go to Explorer, and we just click and drag, and so this image is now overlaid over the top of our video. And since this is square, it's going to just kind of window box into our widescreen frame. We can also adjust how this is positioned and how big it is by clicking on the pan crop. and this is that little squarish icon on the edge right here. And if I kind of move this over a little bit so you can still see the preview, you can kind of click and drag that anywhere that you want. You can also kind of move it. Now the reason that as I move this it's being kind of obscured like here is because this is square and we have our widescreen frame. You can fix this by right-clicking on that and doing match output aspect, and now your selection box is the same widescreen aspect of your final video. So now when you do that, you can zoom in and it fills your frame. You can zoom out, and I'm going to do the magnifying glass and right-click to give myself a little bit more room to work with. If I zoom out to make this smaller, and then I pick it up and drag it, I can place this down in the corner. So if you have a graphic file, like a company logo or something that you wanted to kind of put a little branding bug down in the corner of your video, you can do that by putting it on the video track, on the very top video track, and doing pan and crop to adjust the size and where it's placed. And again, you can select how long it appears on your video. You can do transitions, just like anything else. So that's really the basics of assembling a video project. There's lots more advanced stuff that you can do. Again, there's also video effects. There's all sorts of different audio things that you can do. It's a really powerful tool for audio recording and all sorts of different things like that. You can burn CDs from it. You can do tons and tons of different things. But this is basically how you lay out a video project. Now let's say this, everything that we've done so far, is the video the way that we want it to be. How do we get it onto YouTube? Well, they make it really, really easy by just giving you this Make Movie icon here. And basically, they have a one-click uploader direct to YouTube. You can also burn it to a DVD or a Blu-ray disc from here. You can save it to a camera or portable device, or save a file to your hard drive. But for the purposes of this video, let's say we wanted to get it directly onto YouTube. You don't have to fuss around with figuring out what kind of file to save it as and what kind of settings to do. All you have to do is put in your YouTube username and password, the title, the description of your video, choose a category, add in any tags, and then choose whether you want it to be public or private, and the render quality. Now, I would highly recommend to do higher. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to, since our project is an HD video project, it's going to render it in HD and upload it as HD. If you do it as normal, chances are it will end up in either 240p or 360p, which is standard definition, and it might look kind of muddy. So if you're going to take the time to do something in high def, I recommend rendering it and publishing it in high def. Now, the upload size differs on our project between 5.1 megs and 19.5 megs. Yours might be different. I would recommend just taking the time and doing it right as higher. It will probably take a little bit more time to render and to upload, but your stuff will look a lot better. Now, there's also this option here, render and upload loop region only. What this means is you can select a portion of your timeline and only upload that part. Or if you're saving a file, it'll only save that part. So basically, you can just kind of click in an open space of your timeline and drag a selection. Now, anything within this loop region marker on the top of the timeline is what's called your loop region. If we go back to the YouTube uploader, now we have this checkbox available for render and upload loop region only. So if you wanted to only put this portion on YouTube, you could do that. So then once you fill in all this and hit upload, it'll go through, it'll take the time to render everything, and it will upload it directly to YouTube. Really couldn't make it any more simple than that. You don't have to worry about logging into YouTube on the web and finding the file and doing all that stuff. Basically, it's a complete end-to-end solution for dumping in your media and getting it right there on the internet. For more tutorials and information on social media videos and audio and podcasts and all sorts of other things like that, make sure that you stay tuned to socialshowandtell.com and our YouTube channel at youtube.com/socialshowandtell.